guys, Tara here from Recovering Book Hoarder. Today I am going to be going through my 2020 reading goals and wrapping up for January. So it's been a while since I filmed, and the reason for that was because this lovely space that I'm in right now was in the process of getting worked on, and I really didn't have anywhere to film that I was happy with. So I now have my own room. It's my little piece of heaven on earth, and I'm able to go ahead and start filming again for my channel. One of my goals was to upload 2 videos a month to BookTube, and I've already failed at that. So I'm going to go ahead and say from this point forward, I'm going to be uploading at least 2 videos a month to my channel. My Goodreads goal this year, I'm setting at 75. Last year, I set it at 52, and I blew that out of the water. I think I read 127 books, I believe it was, last year. I like to go lower just in case something unexpected happens, and I think 75 is a nice middle ground there. Of course, I want to read more than that, but I will be happy if I hit the 75. I play my own version of Bookopoly, which I don't ever show anybody because I don't have the right kind of tripod for my camera, so I can't figure out how to make it so you can actually see my Bookopoly board. So I do that separately, and then so I'll just tell you what the categories are for that whenever I do my TBRs each month and what books I picked. So I'd like to play that at least 6 times. I can play more than that, but I want to do at least 6. This year, I plan to read the Apologetics Study Bible, HCSB, the Holman Christian Standard Bible, and then there's all kinds of apologetics lessons within it. So last year I read the ESV. This year we'll be doing the HCSB Apologetics Study Bible. Okay, I would like to complete a devotional. Last year I did 1 devotional, and it was a whole year devotional within that. So this year I want to do at least 1, possibly 2, because the one that I chose to start the year is called the Imagine Heaven Devotional, and that is 100 days worth of devotions. So once I finish that, more than likely I'll do another one, but my goal is at least 1. Okay, I would like to participate in 3 readathons this year, especially the OWLs. I would really like to do those. I wanted to do those last year, and I didn't end up doing it. So my goal this year is 3 readathons. Not sure what the other 2 will be, but definitely the OWLs. Right, I would like to read, I have 2 separate 20 and 20 lists that I would like to get through. One is 20 to read in 2020, and that can include anything. And then the other one is 20 Christian books to read in 2020, and that will be just Christian books. So what I'm doing is I have those in jars, well, mugs actually, and each month I will pull 2 from each jar, and those will be the ones that I read for the month. And then my last reading goal for 2020 is to wrap up 8 previously started series. And so I did the same thing. I put all of them into one of my mugs, and I'm picking one each month, at least 1 to read, and then possibly picking another one once I get through that if I have some additional time after I get through all of my TBRs. Okay, so those are my 2020 goals. I am happy with those. So my wrap up for January, so far, things are going very well. I'm right on track with my the reading of the Apologetics Bible. I have it broken down. I'll actually show you guys what I do. So in my reading journal, I have it broken down into each day, all the way from January 1st through December 31st for what I will be reading. And then as I read it, I color in. These are all the different chapters, and I color them in. And then whenever the colors changes, that means it changes to a new month. So that's how I track my Bible each day. So I'm right on track with that. I have not skipped a day in my Imagine Heaven devotional, and I'm on track. Oh, you know what? There's one more thing I'm doing, and that's it's called Core 52, and that is a weekly Bible study that helps you get to know and understand the Bible better. So I'm also right on track with that. Okay, so for January, I read a total of 13 books. The number of pages I read was 4,017. I read 9.5 print books and 3.5 audiobooks. And that's because one of the books I read was, I did a mix of both. Of those, you know, my channel is called Recovering Book Hoarder. And that is because I own a lot of books especially that are unread. And I really, what I learned several years ago is that books have become an idol to me. And I don't want to have any idols in my life outside of God himself. So my goal has been to get my books down to a manageable level, okay? And to me, a manageable level would be one bookshelf that, well, all of the bookshelves that I have in here, and then I have one bookshelf that my mom had gotten me many years ago, and I want my books to be limited to just on there. So my goal is to unhaul anything that is not an absolute, like, I have to keep this. I know I'm going to come back to it and read it again. My goal is to get rid of a lot of books. My goal is also to read the books that I have on my shelves and have very, very minimal hauls. My hauls used to be ridiculous, 20 to 30 books a month, and it just never came anywhere close to what I was reading. So I currently have a little over 300 books that I have not read, hoping to get that down to a little over 200 by the end of this year. So this month, I read 13 books. Of those 13 books I read, 9 of those I am unhauling. 1 of those I am keeping, and 3 of those I read on Scribd, so I don't own them, and that is okay. And then the other thing too, I hauled 1 book this month, and that was Jane Eyre. It was a nice copy of Jane Eyre that I found at Ollie's, and I think it was $5.99. So not bad, 1 book in the month, but I'm getting rid of 9. Of the books that I read, of those 13 books, I had 0 1-stars. I had 1 2-star book, 8 3-star books. So the majority of the books I read were 3 stars. So as far as I'm concerned, it was like a okay reading month. 3 of those were 4-star, and I had 1 5-star book. So now I'm going to go through those. I'll go through them in the order that I read them. The first book that I read this month was Inside Dunder, Mifflin, The Ultimate Fan's Guide to The Office by Amy Lewis. And this was on my Bookopoly. I had landed on pick what is my income tax spot, and whenever I do that, it is buy a book from your wish list and read it. So this didn't count my haul because I purchased it in December whenever I did that. So I was really excited about this book, and it was okay. If you've watched The Office through one time, maybe you would like this book. And it's meant for you. But I've watched The Office through 3 or 4 times now, and so I was very easily able to catch errors in here that they stated as facts, which really bothered me. So, I mean, it's okay. There's some, you know, nice photos, trivia, but I really was irritated by the misfactual information presented in here. So this was the book that was a 2-star for me. It was okay. I didn't hate it, but if you're a die-hard Office fan, this is definitely not the book for you. Okay, the next book that I read was off of my 20 Christian in 2020 list, and that was Raising a Princess by John Groyle, founder of Big Oak Ranch. So he founded a ranch for, it started out a boys' ranch, and that was for boys that came from really, really bad families. Think of it as like a much better version of an orphanage. Just as these kids had like nowhere else to go. Sometimes they were aiming to reunify them with their family, but that was not always the case. So that eventually morphed into, he had the boys' ranch still, and then he added on a girls' ranch to that. And this book is about 8 things that he believes are needed to teach your daughter that she is the princess that God intends her to be. And so I'll just go through those. It's Princess is an acronym. So it stands for praiseworthiness, righteousness, initiative, nurture, character, empowerment, servant-heartedness, and stability. So each chapter focuses on one of those virtues and helps you as a parent understand how you can incorporate those into into your parenting style and into the life of your daughter. So this was good. I gave this one 3 stars. It was good. Wasn't like blew my socks off or anything, but there was things in here that I'll definitely take and be implementing into my everyday parenting. Okay, after that, I read The House at Pooh Corner by A.A. Milne. I'd always wanted to read this. Some of the quotes that I got, like if I type in like quotable quotes on the internet, a lot of times Winnie the Pooh quotes come up, and I had never read any Winnie the Pooh. So I was really excited to read this. I mean, it was good. Like 3 stars, solid, enjoyable, something that I want my nieces to read, and probably gonna sneak into their book collection at their house. Okay, after that, this was an audiobook, and it was Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. This was a 4-star read. So this was kind of like a twisted fairy tale, I guess you would call it. And it hit my, back for a second. The House at Pooh Corner, my prompt was to read a classic, so that was for that category. Okay. Stepsister I just read because it was available through Scribd, and it had been on my to borrow from the library list. So it is about one of the ugly stepsisters of Cinderella's, and I really liked this one. I feel like it's a task for any author if they're going to try and get you to like the character that is most unlikable in a story. And this was one of those, and I think that the author did a great job. And you really were, I mean, it presented the stepsisters in a different light. Like, the reason that they were pitted against Cinderella all came down to the stepmother, and they had been really close whenever they were younger, and then the stepmother did things to really mentally separate them from Cinderella. So these girls really come into their own. There's a twist on the fairy godmother, and I just, overall, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to read more by her. Okay, after that, I read Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. I previously have read 2 Jodi Picoults, and I really liked them, but there was something about her that was keeping me from reading her. I almost felt like she was too intense, and I was steering clear of her. This book has completely changed that for me, and now my new goal is to read her entire catalog, and I want to read at least 1 Jodi Picoult book a month moving forward. I absolutely loved this. Jodi presents very controversial issues in a way that really makes you think and examine yourself, and that's what this book did for me. So this book is about it's about a black nurse who works in the labor and delivery unit, and one day when she's on shift, she is put on to care for what she later comes to find out is a white supremacist, and his wife is the daughter of like the bigwig white supremacist in the area. So he ends up asking to speak to her supervisor, and states that he under no circumstances wants that nurse or any other black medical personnel to take care of his son. And then something tragic happens, and the nurse has to, her name is Ruth, she has to make a decision that ends up fueling the rest of this story. This book really opened your eyes to to racism. And even if you think you're not a racist, this book helps you to see that just as a byproduct of being white, even if I know a female is a minority, but white females have more privileges just as a byproduct of being white and living in the United States than black people do. So, and then even if, you know, you say, well, I don't see race, I don't see color. That's just like, this helps you understand how ridiculous that is to say. And it's made me realize that I need to open myself up more and learn more about being black in America. This is wonderful. This was my 5-star read of the month, and I cannot recommend it enough. Okay, after that, I read The Library Book by Susan Orlean. This one I did read half of the print and half of it I listened to through my Scribd account. And this was 3 stars. It was good. This is about the LA library, the main library in the LA library system, about the fire that destroyed that library. I did not think this was something I would be interested in, but Olive over at A Book Olive, I think that's what her channel is called. I'll link it down below. She had done a review on this, and she said it was essentially a love letter to libraries and to books, and that I found very intriguing. So I had gone to Barnes & Noble, read the first chapter. It had me hooked. So I went ahead and got it, and it was very enjoyable. I liked it. It was a 3-star read. It was solid. I won't read it again, but it was good. If you enjoy books, if you like history, a little bit of intrigue, this is a book for you. All right, after I read that, I read, oh, I should say too, sorry. The library book was off of my 20 books in 2020 list. All right, Silent Stalker by Richie Tankersley-Cusick. This was I had landed on Community Chest on my Bookopoly board, and that is a pile of rereads. So this was one of my favorite books whenever I was probably 12. And I've read it several times since then, but this is probably the first time I've read it in probably 10 years. And it was still good. 3 stars. Previously I had rated it 5, but I think that's to be expected sometimes with things that you've read way back when. So this one I'm going to be giving to one of my daughter's best friends who's really into, I have a tendency to give her all of my young adult books when I'm done with those. So good, but I no longer feel the need to hold on to it. Okay, after that, I listened to Wild and Crazy Guys by Nick DeSemlian. I think that's how you pronounce it. I listened to that on my Scribd account, so I listened to that through audio. It was good. This is about the comedians of the 70s and 80s that you know, most of them came off of Saturday Night Live and from Second City. So like John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, that bunch, okay? Steve Martin. And it really gets into the beginning of their careers all the way through. You get some behind the scenes looks at some of the movies, like you get to see some of Ghostbusters and Caddyshack. And it was, if you enjoyed those comedians, if you're like a huge fan of them, you're going to love this book. So, like I told my friend Melissa, I said, you have to order this right now. Because Belushi, she is like, oh my gosh, Belushi. She loves Belushi. And just that whole time of comedy is like her thing. And to her, I think this is going to be a 5-star read. For me, it was a 3-star read. I liked it. It was good. But I don't think I was quite big enough of a fan of them to truly enjoy it as much as I could have. Okay, so after that, I am doing my series, trying to do series wrap up. So I read book 2 of 1Q84, so I have 1 book left. This is a book, I'm I'm just going to tell you about the first book in the series. So, the year is 1Q84, meaning that there are slight changes and differences between actual 1984 and the year that they are experiencing. There is, I would say that this is kind of magical realism, sci-fi magical realism mix, maybe. Haruki Murakami is the author, and I'm really enjoying this book. I couldn't tell you why. Well, I can tell you the descriptions, you can picture everything. It's not overboard in descriptive language. However, you can clearly picture every single thing that's happening, and I really love the writing style. And considering the fact that this is a translated work, I think that says a lot. So, book 2, I gave this one 4 stars, and I'll continue on to the last one once I pick it from my jar. Okay, after that, I read January 1st by Michael Schofield, and this was, I landed on a mental health space. So, this book is about a little girl who, at age 2.5, I think it's 2.5 or 3, her IQ is like 149, I think it is, and it's just as high as it goes up to for a child her age. So she's a genius, but her behaviors are just beyond anything. And I can tell you, I am a behavior specialist, and so I have seen a lot of behaviors. I have dealt with a lot of behaviors. I have a child on the autism spectrum. I deal with a lot of behaviors in my own house. This was beyond anything I have ever seen in real life. And I just kept thanking God as I was reading this that my child did not have to go through what this child did, and I didn't have to go through as a parent what these parents did. Ultimately, she is diagnosed with childhood schizophrenia, which is just extremely rare, and has a very bad outlook. It just doesn't look good for her. So you're following her from the time she's very small through, I think the last time we see her, she's 12 in here. And it is the struggle that the parents had to go through to find a diagnosis for her, to get people to listen to her, to listen to them. And it ripped your heart out. It was very good. I gave this a 4 stars. It was good. I would recommend this if it will make you feel like you're extremely lucky if you're a parent. That I pray to God your child is not going through what this little girl's gone through. Okay, after that, this was my other 20 Christian books in 2020 book, and it is A History of Christianity in Pittsburgh. This was by Gary Scott Smith. Pittsburgh, right here from Pittsburgh. So I found this very interesting. I got a lot of information from here. Gave it 3 stars just because it wasn't like, you know, some people can tell a story about history and you just can't wait to come back to it. Like, the writing style is just great. This guy's, I mean, it reads like he was writing a thesis. So it's kind of dry, but good information. So yeah, 3 stars. All right, then I read Escape from Mr. Limoncello's Library by Chris Grabenstein. That is the first in the Mr. Limoncello's Library series, and I listened to that through Scribd on audio. It was fun. It was 3 stars. I want to read the rest of them. The only reason I gave it 3 stars is because the information that these kids knew was beyond anything I could actually see kids that age knowing, and it took place in Ohio, and there really wasn't any like magic or anything like that. The library itself was very modern and beyond the kind of libraries that we have now, But outside of that, you're expected to believe that this is taking place in like any normal day and time in Ohio. So I don't buy that the kids have as much knowledge as and about the topics that these kids do. But it's fun. Kids would love it. I did enjoy it. So I would recommend it. It was 3 stars. Okay, and then I finished out the month with Need to Know by Karen Cleveland. This was a psychological thriller on my Bookopoly board. And this was going to be 4 stars for me until I got to the last 2 pages. The last 2 pages took it down to 3 stars. The ending of a book is so important, and I did not like how they ended this book. So the premise of this is there is a husband and wife. The wife works for the CIA. The husband, I think the husband's a professor maybe, but she one day discovers a chilling secret about her husband. And the rest of the book is all about how she deals with the knowledge that she uncovered and the consequences of each of the ways she decides to deal with it. So, it was good. At no point did I feel like I was on the edge of my seat, but I enjoyed reading it, but the ending just, it was okay. It was all right. So anyway, that was my wrap up, and it was an okay month. Great in the amount of what I read, but the quality of what I read, it was okay. It was nothing to, you know, brag about. So anyway, if you've read any of these, let me know what you think. Yeah, hope you guys have a great day. Bye.